Okay, we might do a quick sound check. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. Hey, Sanjin, good to see you. We've got 4 people here, so me and 3 others. So we've got a variety of things we could do today. So we did file I/O in the lecture. Officially in the tube, we should be covering that. But because assignment 2 is due and we're not having proper classes, I figured we'd work on the assignments if you want to. I think some people want to anyway. So I hope they're here today. So a few things we could do. We could look at extending the lecture GUI example that we built up over a lecture and a tute. We could look at slapping a GUI on the dogs and dog tester classes. Or we could just have a look at specific issues you're having. And I'll try and build a little project to those. I might even, if you're having an issue with something with the assignment 2, I might even try and make it so it fits in with the dogs and dog tester classes, just to build on what we've done already without starting from scratch. And okay, so who's having any issues with anything with the assignment? Okay, I do, yep. So if you let me know what it is, I can help. Okay, so the question is, I'm not sure what the 3 mutator methods need to make. Okay, so let's have a look at our doggy class. Our one for a basic dog. And you'll see there I've got the accessor methods. And it's a get dog name and a get dog age. So for each of the private instance fields, you've got a get method. So that's the accessors. And then you've got the mutators as well. So set dog name and set dog age. Okay. Now I think there was a typo in assignment 3. I think he said 3 mutator methods. I think there was only supposed to be 2. Let me have a look at the spec again. Okay, so we've got 2 text fields. So there's 2 text fields: customer number and customer name and customer number. And so there are 3 fields. Yeah, so you do need 3 accessors and 3 mutators. So you'd have get customer name, get pizza size, get toppings, and set customer name, set pizza size, set toppings. Okay. Now, for the purposes of this assignment, you might not use the mutator methods. Okay, they might be there for future use. You might not even use the accessor methods for this assignment. Okay, but it's a good idea to build a data class, and you follow the recipe. So when you build a data class or an instance class, you do default and parameterized constructors. You do your mutators, mutate ORs, and your accessors, your toString. Okay. And later on next term, I'll show you some other things you can do as well to make your class even more useful. But they're the things you do. So for this assignment here, as it stands now, we might not be using those at all. Okay, depends on how you write your code and depends on what you're doing. Okay, but in the future, if you extended your assignment where you've allowed a user to edit the orders, then you would definitely be using these. So especially the mutators, because you might be changing customer name, you might be changing the pizza size, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so I've got another point there from Sanjin. I only made 1 mutator. The assignment sheet suggested I only need to use 1 mutator. So let's just keep looking for mutator. I'll do a search. So 2 set methods or mutators. So it says 2 and 2. Whoops. Okay. which I'm sure that's a typo. If you've got if you've got 3 instance fields, there should be 3 accessors and 3 mutators. And that's the only place it's referenced. So let's do a setter. See if the other word's used. Setter's not used at all. Okay. I only use one mutator method. Okay, so yeah, so you might only use one. Like I said, you might only use one for the assignment. You might not use any for the assignment. Okay, but they're there for future use. So you just get into the habit of following the recipe when you make an instance class. Okay, so add your constructors, you add your mutators, you add your accessors, you add your toString. Later on, I'll be showing you other things like adding a compare to. So you can compare class objects. And yes, that's all the follow-on course, this later on. There's various other methods we can add, and we'll be adding those in the future. But for now, that's all we do for now. So you might not be using your accessors and mutators, but still create them, because that will be there for future use. Pretend this is a project you're going to build on. There's going to be future work done on it, and you might do that between terms. Okay, so to save starting your next Java course all rusty, maybe you want to extend your assignment too and make it so you've got an edit function, so you can edit an order. Okay, or delete an order. Okay, so it's a good question there. Put it in as well. Does any data related to a pizza need to be capable of being changed after a pizza has been created? Okay, so let's see if there's an edit function. Structures, enter. So there's an add, a display, and a search. Okay, so there's no edit function. This assignment. Some assignments there are. Some assignment 2s there are in this course. But we generally follow on from this sort of assignment in the follow-on course, and we definitely have an edit and a search and a sort and all sorts of other buttons as well. So it doesn't seem to be an edit function here. Edit. No, so no edit. But with the search, that's where you'll use your accessor method, your getName method. So you'll be comparing the name the user entered against a getName in the array for a pizza order. Okay, so you're definitely using one of the accessors there in the search, but that's maybe all you'll do. You don't need this. You don't actually use the setters now, but like I say, they're there for future use. And you just got to get in the habit when you write a class that you do just follow the recipe. Okay, so you provide the basics that everybody expects to be there. I'll just show you something quickly. You might be thinking to yourself, I get sick of entering all that stuff all the time, which is fair enough. So one little thing I did is I created a string name, class pizza, string name, int size, and whatever. And then I can just say, create the class code. So if I paste that in here so you can see it, you can see that I wrote the code to generate the comments and everything for me because I was doing it so often. I got sick of doing it. So it puts a publics in, it puts a privates in, it creates the default and parameterized constructors, get name, get size, set name, set size, toString with labels if you want that. Because I was doing it so often, when you do it 4 and 5 times a day, you get sick of doing it. So I took an hour or so out and wrote this code to generate the whole class from 2 or 3 lines. Okay, so you provide your data and your class name, and it generates the rest in the comments, amendment section, and everything. So a lot of IDEs do that as well. So like the Eclipse IDE, you can right click on the class and you can say add the accessors, add the mutators, add the constructors, and it will generate those bits of code as well inside your files for you. So modern IDEs do this as well, but it's not hard to do. Okay, good question there. I'll leave that there for now. Just because I showed it as an example, I'll just put a little bit of a note there. The next question is, I'll put it in the slide. Good questions, though, Sanjin. Keep them coming. Very good questions. Does the outcome need to look exactly the same as the descriptions on a task sheet? Or can I make additional features so I can make some more mutator methods to have 3 mutators in total? Yeah, so like I said earlier, that was a typo. Up here, the 2 set methods and 2 get methods, that was a typo. It should have been 3 and 3. Yep. And I've also talked to Bruce, and you can add a 2-string method. I asked him earlier in term. I think I did it on the course forum. So check the course forums. But I asked Bruce, can you add a 2-string? 3 mutators. 3. And you can add, so you can add a 2-string method if you like. You can add, because it doesn't actually say that in the spec. You can also add a display pizza method. I'm not sure if it's there in this spec, but some specs it's not in prior terms. So if you want to pass through the ID or index, you can add a method just to display a single pizza. Okay, so the 2-string would go in your pizza class, and the display pizza would go in your pizza GUI, or whatever you called it. Rockhampton pizza orders, or whatever you've called it. Okay, but you can add extra methods. I've cleared that with Bruce. Just check the course forums. Now adding additional features. Can I make additional features? Additional features. Okay, so in the past, we used to give bonus marks for adding extra features. So if you came up with extra things, like if someone added an edit function in or a sort function, we had like 2 or 3 bonus marks per assignment that you could get if you did extra work. And guess what? We had to remove it because a student complained. Okay, it's not fair. Some students are getting bonus marks and I'm not. Okay, so bonus marks are gone. So additional features, now the official word is no. Okay, so I can't give you bonus marks. So just try and stick to the spec as closely as you can. Okay. Like I say, one thing you got to be aware of anyway is feature creep. That's a really dangerous thing that all software developers have to be careful of, feature creep. You know, somebody asks you for a program that does X, Y, and Z, and you think, oh, it would also be good if I could do this and added this in and added this in. And next thing, what you're delivering is not what the customer asked for. And some people really appreciate it. Some people really appreciate your ideas. Some people just say, take that away. That's not what I asked for. Take all that extra stuff out. I don't want it. And they'll be really quite nasty, maybe. So the trick is, before you add extra features to something, clear it with the client. Or your employer, whoever it is, before adding. I've got this idea. What do you think about adding this in? Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, and get an email trail, so it's all in email. So you can prove why you did it later. And also, of course, if you're adding extra features to something for a client or an employer, make sure you specify the timescales. Okay, because if there's extra features, there's probably going to be extra work. Anyway, so just stick to the spec. That's my official word. Just stick to the spec. I've got some other questions here to catch up on now. So one from Wayne. Let's have a look at Wayne's question. There's a whole bunch here. I'll do them one at a time.
Not really a question.
Okay. You only need 1 mutator for each class variable. There are 3 class variables, so there should be 3 mutators. That's quite correct. That's what I said. So 3 mutators and 3 accessors. Yep, that's quite right. And like I said, even though we're not using the mutators in this assignment, they're there for future use. It's just best to get in that, like I said, it's best to get in the habit of baking a cake. Just follow the recipe. Shake and bake. Shake, bake. I'll call it that because that's what do people think of when they think of shake and bake? I think of a movie when I hear that. One of the best movies I think of all time.
Above the rim, is it?
Oh, you're close. I think of Alien 2. When they go down to the planet, it's a shake and bake colony. Yeah. But anyway, that's. But Pacific Rim's probably got it as well, or yeah, probably other movies. Next question. Yes, Wayne, that's why I want to. Yep, so that's that. Yeah, so Wayne's just made a point there. There's the 3 mutators. Yep, that's right. It says customer name, set topping, set pizza size, 3 mutators. And like I said, we don't use them for this assignment. Get in the habit. The shake and bake recipe. So when someone asks you for a class, just provide all the methods. And like I say, it happens so often, you'll get sick of doing it, and you'll write your own. If you're not using Eclipse or an editor that can fill in the code for you, you'll write your own really quickly. It's like an hour's work, if that. Okay. That'll complete the class for you with a comments header and everything. So this little function saved me so much time, hundreds of hours. It's well worth doing. In fact, if it would probably make a good little assignment question for a future term. Okay, I'll catch up on some questions. 3 mutators. Okay, so Wayne said there's a Kevin Bacon movie. A signature move called a shake and bake. Cool, that'd be good. Anything else, Sanjay? Anything else you got problems with or questions about? Or anyone else? We've certainly got 4 people. Who else is here? I can't show that. There's a button I don't want to click because it might show up on this, might show the people's pictures up on the slides, and I don't want to show that. Yeah, I think everyone's busy with their assignments. Quite right, Sanjay. Yes. Yes, I think everyone's busy with their assignments. I just hope after today's class that people don't discover they've got issues and they should have maybe come to the class. Yeah. Let's put that question and answer in just so it's, if anyone's downloading the notes later and has a look, they can see that then, oh, I should have come to class.
Be happy to go through the GUI on the dogs thing if no one else has got any other questions.
So do people want to, one thing I've been sort of suggesting we could do for a while is to get some GUI practice, and it will also cover a fair bit of what the assignment does as well. So if we slap a GUI on the dogs, because there's a search in a dogs tester, there's a sort, there's an add for an add function in the dog test. It's just not wired up to a GUI, so we can go through and wire all these things up, and I'll show you how it works if you like. Unless anyone wants to work on anything else. Anything else anyone wants to look at or work on or discuss? Speak up now. Okay. So has everyone got the code for the dog and dog Has anyone got those 3 bits of code? Otherwise, I'll copy them into the chat window if you need them. But they're on my GitHub if you've got the link to the GitHub. Has everyone got those 3 files?
I do.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. Thank you. Andrew has. That's good. Thanks, Andrew. Sanjin, have you got those 3 files? Sanjin, not there? No, sorry. 3? Yeah, so there's the dog, the dogs, and the dog tester. What I'll do is I'll zip them up and I'll attach them to the chat window. I don't have the dog Java files. Okay, let me just zip them up, and I'll call it week 11. Dogs start. So it's just, in other words, the start of when we get going. Let me just attach that to the chat window. Almost there. Here we comes. Okay, so there's a little zip file attached to the chat window. So if everyone grabs that, then we've all got exactly the same code. Because I might have put comments in or something like that. So everyone grab that, and we'll go from there. So it's in the chat window. I'll also add it to the GitHub. If anyone else prefers GitHub, I'll do that right now. Oh, well, the 3 files are already on the GitHub anyway. They're already there. The only thing that's changed is that. Okay, so unzip that and away you go. We might create a new one called Dog Gui, or Dogs Gui. .java. Create a new one there called dogsgui.java in the same folder as the other ones. Okay. We'll do our standard imports, javax.swing.star, java.awt.star. And there's one more, if anyone remembers, it's the event one to handle button clicks .event. So as long as you've got those 3 imports, that covers most of what we need to do. It could also be some util stuff that we need to bring in, but we'll see how we go. We'll just see where we end up. This is all playing it by ear, or we'll just see where we end up. We'll do a constructor that builds our GUI. We'll put a main in, public static void main string. Just create a new instance of our GUI, which calls the constructor. Okay, I'll give you some time. I'll give you some time to catch up. When you got that code in, you should be able to compile. Control-1. Don't run it yet though, because it's going to create a. Doesn't really matter. Nothing's visible. That's all. So your Apple run, but nothing's visible. It's going to take a couple of kilobytes or something of your precious PC memory. a few kilobytes instead of 16 gigabytes or something. Okay, that's our dog's Gui. Just let me know if you need more time. We've got a fifth person. We've got number 5 just joined. Thanks for coming. Anyone need more time? So the person has just arrived. We've been talking about assignment 2 questions, and we ran out of questions and issues. So we're moving on to slapping a GUI on a dog and dogs classes. Okay, so if you've got any questions on the assignment 2, you can let us know in the chat window maybe, and I'll answer them. Otherwise, we'll just proceed on with this question or this task. Okay, I assume that's enough time, hopefully. Let me know if you need more time. Let's create a label. Yeah. So we'll create a label in a text field, label in a text field. Okay, so Sanjin's saying I don't have the dog Java file. Yep, so you should have it now, that's fine. Sorry, I'm looking at the old chat. Okay. We need a text field. So J text field, uppercase T, uppercase F. In here we can provide the size of the text field. I'm going to believe make it 20 characters approximately. That's our dog name. Then our age, dog age, and dog age. Sorry, and that should be text field, not label. Text field there and text field there. Something like that. You could make these private as well. That's quite okay. In fact, it's good practice to make everything private, just so it's not accessible from outside the class. Nothing can mess with your components. Okay, so make them private as well. You might as well make everything private unless it's a constant. Okay, so let's now get onto some shopkeeping in our dog's GUI. So we're going to say set something. Something. See if you can work out what the gaps are. Set default close operation. Something. See if you can remember what that is. Set size. Is something. Set. Is it location or position? I want to go location. I always say position, and I think it's always wrong, but give that a try. And set title. Set the title for our title bar. Doggy GUI version 0.1.
So set visible is true.
Perfect. Set size is just setting the size of our window. So I'm going to go 500 wide by 500 high. See how that looks? Set the location, setting the location of your app from the top left-hand corner. And I want to make mine so it just fits in the video nicely, 200 across and 100 high, because I'm not recording the full screen to keep the video size down. Okay. And, exit on close, perfect. There we go. So Andrew's got the exit on close right. And you've got to put a J option pane in front of it. J option pane? No, J frame. On close. I think that's right. Let's see, compile. Oh, so one thing we're going to do with our class, we're going to tell Java it's a GUI frame. So we're going to go extends. There's other ways to do it as well, but this is why I like extends JFrame. It's nice and neat and quick. So in other words, we're telling Java that our GUI class, because it doesn't know it's a GUI, we're telling it's a type of frame. So something with a border and title bar and that sort of thing. Control 1. Everything's fine. We should be able to run it now. Control 2. And there it is running. Okay, I'll stop coding for a while to let people catch up in case anyone's behind.
For the dog age label, you've got dog name in the string.
That'd be confusing, wouldn't it? That's right. Yeah, so it should be dog age there. I wasn't actually looking over there. This is really making me twitch over here. I'm fighting myself from neatening that up. Yes, I've got issues. I know I've got issues. Yeah, everything's got to be neat and in columns. Even though this is a throwaway project, it's still good idea to try and make it neat. Pretend someone's going to work on it in the future, and if they find a mess, they're going to come and find you. For doggy age, we don't probably need a 20-character text field either. We probably just need a 5. If you want to leave it 20, 20 is fine as well. Okay, so anyone got problems? Anyone want to zip up the latest code and we'll attach it to the chat window again? Anybody want me to zip up the latest code and put it in the chat window? I can do that as we go if you like. It doesn't take long. Just for the person who arrived late, I might do that. So dogs, dog GUI, dog tester. It's got the 4 files in it. Yep, 4 files. Let's attach that to the window. So if anyone wants to start there, they can. Okay, it's on the chat window now. I'll make that first one version 1. Okay, let's move on. So we've got the basics there. Let's now build our GUI quickly. We're not going to make it super neat. So we'll have a J panel for dog name panel equals new J panel, and we'll give it a flow layout. Make everything centered. If you want to make it left or right, you can do that as well. Okay, so we'll have a panel for the dog name, dog age panel. We'll set our user interface, set layout. We'll make it a grid so that we've got the dog name label and a text field next to each other, and the age label and age text field next to each other. So we might make it actually we might have might create a top panel as well, and we'll make that our grid. Just going to have a new grid layout, and it's going to be 2 rows and 1 column. Okay, so to the dog name panel, we're going to add 2 things. which is the dog name label and the dog name text field. Okay, and then to the dog age panel, we're going to add the age label and the age text field, just the same sort of code. Age label, age text field. Add those to the top panel. Panel.add. The dog name panel first. Then the dog age panel. So we're just building up our GUI like a jigsaw, just building up these containers and layering them together, building them into a big panel, and then we're going to add that to our user interface. So by default, a frame's got a border layout. So our main area's got a border layout, which has got the north, south, east, and west, and center, the big center region. So let's add our top panel to the north region of our user interface. Okay, so now we should see some components on screen. Control 1, Control 2. I'll move it out of the way so you can still see the, okay, but it's basically there, functional. Two data entry boxes and 2 labels. Okay, I'm going to call this version 3 and save everything, and I'll zip it up again and attach it if people want to go from here, just in case anybody arrives late. I'll do it off screen so it doesn't distract people. Okay, so the latest version's there if people want it. Right up to date. So I'm going to start work on version 4 now, from the version number. And we'll finish off the GUI and then I'll attach it again. Anybody stuck on anything? Anybody got any errors or issues? Anybody confused? Anybody still typing? Anybody need more time? Cool, okay. Let's add a button panel. So we'll add some buttons in and we'll add a J button, and it's going to be the add button. New J button. Add. Search. Exit. They're just 3 buttons here I've created. And what we'll do is we'll add those to a flow panel and we'll add that in the south region of our user interface. Okay, so let's create another panel. South panel. It's a new flow panel, flow layout center. Okay, so that's our south panel. Call it south panel if you like, or button panel. I might call it button panel. Just for fun. That we're going to add a bunch of buttons. 3 buttons. The add button, the search button, and the exit button. Okay, so I've added our 3 buttons here. we'll add them to the south region. Okay, south region. Okay, I'll leave the, so that's how it looks so far. So we've got the 3 buttons, the data entry stuff. I'm going to slap a great big text area in the middle here. Nothing's working yet, nothing's wired up, but the basics are there. Is everyone okay? Everyone caught up? So I just added the button panel in, added the button panel, buttons to the button panel, and added the button panel to our user interface. So just build up your user interfaces slowly. You don't try and build the whole thing in one hit. You add a few components, compile and test, add a few components, compile and test. Okay, so we'll add a text area in. This is where all our data is going to go. Private J text area. Did I say text field? I meant a text area. Output or results text area, output text area, whatever you want to call it. Equals new J text area. And you can provide a size here as well. You can provide the number of rows and columns, but you don't need to. We're adding it to the center region of a border. It'll automatically expand. Okay, so don't need to provide any sizes inside the round brackets there. Okay, that's the text area. And we're just going to plonk that straight in the text area to the border layout.center. And you've got to use the American spelling. It took me quite a while to get used to for a lot of commands. .center. Okay, so just adding it to the center. Declare it here. And add it down here. There's one more thing we should do with the text area. What should we do to protect it from user input? There's a method we can call to make it so it's read only or display only. And remember what the method was?
If it's set editable.
Perfect. Thanks, Wayne. Set editable. Yeah. So we'll go, just do it. I usually do it up top here somewhere. Do all my settings. .set editable to false. The user can't edit it. Okay, so that should be pretty close. Control 1, Control 2. So that's how we're looking so far. I'll get rid of that. Give people some more time. So we're looking pretty good. If we had a third field there, that would be pretty close to what the assignment is. So we've virtually done the assignment in, or the assignment GUI, the basics of the GUI, in about 23 minutes. Taking it pretty slow. Okay, so I'll zip that up and attach it to the window in case anyone's stuck and wants to proceed from that point. So that's version 0.004. Okay, let's see if anyone wants to continue from that point onwards. And I'll change the version number to 0.5 because I'm starting on 0.005 now. So you still compile and test, make sure you're getting the similar sort of output. Because we're going to start wiring up the buttons now. Okay, so let's wire up the buttons. Oops. Add button, dot add action, listener. And we're going to use lambdas to make it really easy, short and easy. Event, and call the add dog method. I'm going to wire up the search button. Add action listener, and we're going to search dog. Wire up the exit button to call exit. Okay, so now we've referenced these three methods. We have to create at least placeholders for them. Okay, so we're at least create empty methods. So let's go and do that. So they're going to be private methods. Private void dog, just an empty method. Another method called search dog, which is just an empty method. Another method called exit application, which you can write the code for now. You just go system dot exit 0. Okay. And in the lecture example, I showed you how you could override this, change that so it wasn't exit on close, and we could prompt the user if they want to exit down here. We could do that as well if we want to, but we're just going to keep it simple. Just exit. If they click the exit button, we're going to exit. We're not going to prompt them and say, "Are you sure you want to exit?" Okay. Is everyone okay with that so far? Any questions or problems? What I might do is just bring the dog tester over quickly, and we'll have a quick look at this. Oh, this is after we changed it. Yeah. So we're going to make use of our dogs class, or should we? Oh, okay. No, let's not make use of our dogs class. Let's just make it an array then. I was going to make use of our dogs class as well, but we've already changed the code in here to work with an array. So let's do that as well. So I'm just going to copy these three fields from our dog tester class. Okay. And paste them over here. Okay. And I'm going to put the constant at the top. I always put the constants right at the top. And then I put the GUI components. Class starter down here. And could leave it static if you wanted to, but somebody could be creating multiple dog GUI frames. We don't want them all sharing the same data, so we'll make them just private, or just make them just instance fields. Private dog, private int. How do you guys want to proceed? Do you want to wire up the dogs class, which has got the array list built into it? Or do you want to wire up this sort of code, which has got the standard array? I'll let you decide which way you want to go. Do you want to go the array list or the array? So if we go the array route, we're not even going to use the dogs class at all. Okay, so there's two options.
My vote is for the array list.
Okay. Are there any other? Anyone else got an option, a vote, or array list? Everyone's sort of saying array list, which is good. Okay, I'd rather go that way as well. That's the more correct way to do it, and also it gets me off the hook because it's not exactly the same as the assignment. Then, so I'm not showing you the assignment solution. If I get in the array route, I'm virtually giving you the solution to the assignment, which is really worrying. Okay, so let's go the array route, the array list route. So we'll go that one. Okay, so we can delete that constant. Chop. We'll now change this to a dogs object equals new dogs. So we've simplified our code as well. We got rid of a constant. We've got rid of the array, so it's using a dogs object now. And no need to keep track of the current item. The current item's still the one that's just been added to the array or the array list. Okay, so it does simplify things as well. Let me go back to an early week when we did do the original array list, and I'll pull up that code. So I'll close that one. That's the array one. Let's pull up the array list version of the dog tester. And again, I might put that into the zip file as well, so it's all there. So I'll make a dog tester array list. Dog tester array list. Just rename that. I'll rename the class so it matches up okay. And I'll save everything as it is so far, and I'll zip it up as well. So this will be version 5. And I'll leave the old one here. I'll rename the old one to array, dog test array. Just so you got the two versions there if you need to see them. I'll rename that class and that class. And okay, so leave those there as well. So the old code's still there. It's just called dog tester array, and it's a dog tester array list. Everything's saved. Okay, so if that's confused anybody, I'm just attaching the latest file with all the latest code to the chat window. Okay, it's there. It's only 5 kilobytes. It's only tiny. Okay. So let's have a look at our dogs tester array list. So when we click the add dogs button, we want to do something like that. So we're calling the add method in our dogs array. There it is. So we're an add method there, which adds a new dog with that name and age to our array list. Okay, so that's what we're calling that add method. When I click the add button here, but we don't want to pass in Frankie and 4. We want to get the user inputs. Okay, so let's do that. So it's going to be the dog name text field dot something, and then the dog age text field dot something, and we need to also do something else to that to convert it to something. Because this has got to be an integer getting passed through here. The add method takes an integer, a string and an integer. Okay. Get text. Thanks, Andrew. Perfect. Dot get text. So we're getting the text out of the text field. Thank you, Andrew. And we're getting the text out of the dog age text field as well. Get text. Integer to pass in. Andrew's on fire. Thank you, Andrew. Okay. Now, really, we should be doing validation on this. Before we just add it to the array list, we should be checking the names not blank and the ages and blank. We can assume they've entered a valid integer. If they've entered something, it's got to be a valid integer. But we could be checking it's not 0 or a negative number or 3,000 or something that's crazy. So we might have an if statement here. I'll put the blanks thing in blank code in anyway. So we could validate the name. Okay. So now we're sort of down here on the else branch. We might put all this code in later, but I'll leave it out for now. But now we're down on the else branch. Everything's valid, and we're adding the dog to our array list. Okay, so you got to validate stuff before you just go and add it. Okay, so that should be pretty close to adding dogs to the thing. Now we want to display the dogs, and there's a method in our dogs class to. Do we have a toString? We had display dogs. We had a display dogs which displayed them to the console screen, which isn't what we want. So what we might do is change that to a string, and instead of displaying it to the console screen, we'll make it so the dogs class returns a string with all the data in it. Okay, so we could go string output string equals blank. And then instead of print line, we could say output string plus equals. We'll get that doggy. So dogs array list dot get. I get that dog at the location. Convert them to a string, and then add a blank line onto it or a new line character. Okay. Right,
so is this a case where if you were trying to be as efficient as you could, you might consider using a string builder?
We'll do that too. We'll do that too, Rain. That's right. Yep, that's right. We'll do that too. Return string. Okay, so Wayne's brought up a very good point. I was going to come onto this, but he's always jumping in there with these excellent comments. So
sorry.
No. I'm really glad you did. But so I showed you how nasty strings can be. They can be really slow. So let's change to a string builder just to show you how easy it is. Okay, so string builder. So that would work fine for string, but if there's a million dogs in your array, this is going to take quite a while. This code here, it could take, I don't know, it could take minutes if there's a million dogs in your array. Depending on how much data in there we're concatenating on each time, it could be minutes. Okay, so let's convert to string builder. So I'll comment out the old code so you can see it still. So string builder. I could still call it output string if I want to, or output SB equals new string builder. The string builder and string buffer, one of them's thread safe, the other one isn't. It doesn't matter. We're just writing single threaded code, so just use either. The speed difference between them is just so minimal. String builder. If we're writing multi-threaded code, we have to be really careful. And down here, it's not output string, it's string. It's our string builder object, which is output SB dot append. You can append that data there. So it's just the data we're outputting originally. And chop that off. And then down here, we want to say output SP dot toString. String. So we're converting our string builder object to just a normal string. Okay, and if we had a million dogs, just making that little change from changing from string to string builder, that could make the code run in milliseconds or fractions of a second. From minutes down to fractions of a second. So that's just that one little change can make a huge difference. Okay, we can keep calling it display dogs if you like, or toString. I might make it toString. Okay, because it's really converting the dogs array to a string. So let's rename it as well to toString. Okay, that's going to get all the dogs. What if we just want to show? Okay, no, let's show all the doggies now. So when we click the add button, we'll add all the dogs to the array list. Or the text area, sorry, text area. So it's output text area, I think. Output text area dot set text string. So when I click the add button, we'd normally do all validations, and then when everything's valid, add the dog to the text to the array list, and then we'd output. In this case, I'm outputting all dogs. We'll change it later on to output just a current dog, or just a new dog if you want. Okay, we'll just get it working for now. So let's give that a run. And I'll type in defa 5, and we'll add him. There's some nice stuff coming out there. We've got all sorts of nice stuff coming out here. That's telling us dogs Gui, frame 0, 1346, 178, 500 by 500, invalid layout, border layout, title, doggy. Okay, so something's gone wrong here with our, this is very strange. And no error message here.
You have dogs.toString in that.
Oh, sorry.
Highlight.
Exactly right. So here I've just put toString, which means whatever the current object is, and this is all running in our JFrame. So we're converting our JFrame to a string, which is Java's given us the right answer. So let's make it dogs dot. Well spotted. Okay, so make sure you get the dogs dot to say that, otherwise you're calling the toString method for the JFrame class, which is giving us stuff that doesn't really help us. It's not really related to dogs. Control 1, Control 2, and defa 5, and we'll click add. And we've already added some, in our constructor, we added some test data, but you can see def is there as well. So he's coming out, and we'll load Frankie. He's 6, and we'll click add, and Frankie's coming out. So in our constructor for dogs, let's now remove that other test data. Oh, we can leave it there, it doesn't really hurt. We can leave that data. The internet connection just went unstable. I think we're back again. We can leave that data there if you like. It's just for test data. It doesn't really matter. We might take it out. Not a bad idea to do stuff like this when you're testing your app, to save your entering data and then testing the search function or whatever. So you can do that sort of stuff if you want to. Okay, so let's run again. Control 1, control, oops, wrong class. Control 1. Control 2, you've got to run your GUI class, don't forget that. Compile and run that one. This Frankie. 7, add. So they're all coming out fine. We could use some string formatting to help us. If string formatting is turned on already, which I think it might be, let's have a look at the dog class. Yep, we've got string formatting turned on, but our data's still not coming out in nice columns. What can we do? What's going on? What can we do to make it so it's nice columns?
You need to set the text to a fixed width.
That's exactly right. So at the moment it's set by default to a proportional font, which means different characters have different widths. So we can set it to a non-proportional font. That's exactly right. So we'll do that. So up here we'll go output text area.set font, and we'll go new font. Say Courier. Courier New is one of my favorites. Courier New, it's always there. Courier New font dot plain, and the size will be 16. Make it 16 size, or whatever you like. That should do it. So just change the font so that all the characters are the same width. There's other fonts you can use too. If you've got your favorite font, use that one. Courier News is one I've always gone for. Frankie 4, add. Bell, I'll enter a short name, 4, add, and everything's lined up nice and neat. That's pretty cool. Let's also make it so the array list, or the toString method, also has the headings included. So to get the headings, we need to format the same data as the dog object does. So maybe we want to make it so the dog class takes care of the headings as well, because it knows what the format of the data is. Okay, so let's do that. Public string toString headings. I usually just call it toString headings. If you want to call it get headings or something else, that's fine. So we're in a dog class now, the dog, the very base class, the data class, and we're going to copy that format line, but pass over the text dog name instead of the data dog name. And instead of the data dog age, we're going to pass over the text dog age. And maybe make it a bit wider than 4, maybe 8. and put a minus sign there so it's, leave it right justified, that's fine. Maybe you want an underline line as well, so let's put the underline line in just to get everything, get the whole shebang. And so we want something that's about 15 characters wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get 5 characters and then copy it 3 times. 1, 2, 3, that's it. And this one over here is 8, so we'll just make it 5, 1, 2, 3, 8. That should do it. What I might do with how things stand so far, I might save a new version. And I'll make it version 6. So save everything. Okay, so version 6 is there if anyone wants to resume from that point onwards, from where we are onwards. Okay, it's got all the code. I think it's definitely a Zoom issue because it came up with a Zoom error message. My internet here is on 5 bars, it's on 4 bars, so the modem's just in the next room. So yeah, fair point too. Usually it's better to connect to a wide instead of a wireless. Yeah, fair point. I've got a broadband modem right in the next room, so yeah. Might give that a try next week. Okay, so where we're up to. So we've got the add dog happening. We've got the headings happening now. We should have the headings because we added it into here, 2 string headings. So now we want to call that from our dogs class. So whenever we get a 2 string of all the dogs, we want to get that as well. So it's going to be that code there. But 2 string headings instead of that. Now, one thing you might notice about 2 string headings is it doesn't use any data at all. It's not using dog name or dog age. It's not using any class data. So we can actually save a little bit of memory by making it a static method. So then we're not creating it for each dog object. We're just creating it once for all dog objects. So make it a static method. So it's shared. Okay. And then over here in dogs, we're not calling it for the dog anymore. We're calling it for the dog class. So it's now a class method, not an instance method. So it's called for the dog class. So dog.toString headings, not dogsArrayList.get.toString headings. Okay, just making it a little bit more efficient, our code. Okay, just to recap on that again quickly. So we've added the 2 string headings in, and that's in the latest zip file. And then we've got our dogs class. So when it needs a 2 string of the data in a dogs array, the dogs array list, the first thing we do is add on the headings. So we're calling dog.toString headings because it's a static method now, plus a new line. Do we need a new line? Let's have a quick look. Oh, we need a new line here, that's for sure. And well, we added it on there, it doesn't really matter. Add it on there and not in the other place, it doesn't really matter. 6 to 1 half, it doesn't have the other. So if you don't add the new line on here, make sure you add it on over here. Either way's fine. Okay, let's run that. Version 7, that's right. Control 1, Control 2. So there's our code running. Frankie, 6, add. So there's the headings. And there's Bella, and she's 7. add. So everything's coming out nice and neat with headings. We can also say how many records are listed. Let's do that. Might as well. So we'll say 2 dogs listed or something like that in the results down here. So that's the amount of dogs in the array list, which is the size, plus that'd be good. So just leave a blank line between this and the previous output, and an extra blank line in there. Dogs array list size, dogs listed, and then a new line. Just make it a little bit more friendly. $119, we've still got 5 people, so me plus 4 others. And we're 119, so we're going through some time. Let's close some windows. Let's give that a run and compile. So back on the GUI class, control 1, control 2. Okay, so now you can see how many dogs are listed. Okay, pretty cool. Small change, small little changes like that can help a lot. If you had a lot of dogs, that could help. Okay, so that's the add button, pretty well done. If you just want to display the most recent dog, let's look at that. So we want to go here to add dogs class, and we want to add a getter method in. So get the dog name. We could call get dog name, and that would give us the dog data formatted with a string, which would be fine. We'd have to add the headings on and stuff like that. That'd be fine, but it's still just a dog name. Or else we could do something a little bit better. Let's add another toString method in here. Public toString latest dog. Okay, so we just get another toString method in here for the latest dog. Later on, if we had time, we could combine these so that toString and this one was all combined into one, but we'll just keep them separate for now. Okay, so it's a similar sort of code here. Let's just copy and paste this code, but we don't have a loop anymore. Okay, so we want the headings. We just want to get the one at the size -1. Loop. Okay. And of course, we only want to do this if the size is greater than 0. If the array list is greater than 0, yep, welcome back. Sorry, Sanjin, we're back again. It's definitely not my internet. It's stuck high on 5 bars. I'm pretty sure it's a Zoom issue. Yeah. Okay, so we're creating a string builder object. We're adding the headings onto it. If the array list size is greater than 0, we're adding the most recent dog, which is at the index location size -1, and then adding the number of dogs listed, which is going to be 1. Yeah, black box for a short time. Sorry, Sanjin. Yep. I might give it a try with a wide next week, but I really don't think it's going to make a difference. But we'll try. We'll give it a try. Okay, so that's going to do give us the latest dog. So we just need to call that with toString latest dog. We could combine this and the toString methods together by passing through maybe an index or something, and then just get that dog if its index is greater than 0. Get that dog. Otherwise, display all dogs or something. That's something we could do later. So let's call that method. back in our GUI, and it's going to be, instead of that one, it's going to be this one, just to get the latest dog. Okay, so display all dogs if you like, or just the latest, that's fine. Okay, so just change it to toString latest dog there in the GUI, in the add method. Let's give that a quick run. Missing return statement. Line 74. Oh, yeah, no, sorry. Nope. Just had to recompile the classes separately and it was fine. There's nothing wrong there. Usually Java takes care of all that for you. I've seen very few occasions where it hasn't. Frankie and 7, do an add. Bella and 3. No, it should just be one doggy, just Bella. Yep, so that's working fine. Okay, so let's just listen to the latest dog if you want to do it that way. Like I said, we can combine those two methods together pretty easily. Maybe pass through an integer index. If it's less than 0, display all dogs. If it's 0 or greater, display just that dog. Whatever. Okay, let's do a display all. So now we're going to add and just display the current dog. Let's add a display all method. Display all. So search display all. Display all button. Display all doggies. Display all button. Add it to the button panel. Okay, display all button, add it to the button panel. Add it to the user, activate it, so it's activated. I usually try and activate mine in the same order I add them, so I can keep track of things easier, because sometimes you can end up with dozens of buttons. So the order I add them here is the order I activate them. Display all dogs. Okay, so we'll add a new method in for that. Private void display all dogs, and it's just this code here we had. We've already done it. Just dogs toString. That's why I added that method. It was an easy one to add. Okay. Let's do the search. We've got half an hour to do the search, which we'll easily do because the search is already written. All we have to do is wire it up. So back to, oh, you rotten thing. I'm back again, but so my wireless network here. This is a graph. I keep the window open the whole time I'm connected. If that's the graph like that, my wireless is hovering around down here. It's nowhere near 100%. Nowhere near. It never goes up that high. So it's not. I'm pretty sure it's not my wireless that's playing up, but I will try wide next week. Just for fun. And I'm keeping an eye on everything in the other window, on the other screen. Okay, let's do a search. So what we're going to do is, we could use that text field that's on the GUI already. Let's have a look at that. we could use that text field, and when the user clicks the search button, we read whatever data is in there and you do a search on that. That's fine. That's one way to do it. Another way is to have a separate tab where we had a tab of our user interface where we could do a search on a different tab. That's fine as well. Or we could pop up a dialog and say, what's the name you want to search for? Let's pop up a dialog just to do something a bit different. Okay, so string, search name, search string equals J option pane dot show something dialog. What's the dialog we need? It's a show input dialog input. Okay, we could put null as the first parameter, but we know that trick of centering it on our application. So let's center it on the application by grabbing the current class and putting a .this after it. Center it on the application frame and say enter dog name. Okay, and go back. So that's our search happening. Let's have a look at our dogs class because this already got a search function built into it. Sort, remove, toString, search, here it is. Okay, so the search is going to return the first dog it finds, which is fine. Let's do that. We could make it so that it went through all dogs if you like and found all the matches. We could make it so it added the headings here and added the dogs into the text into a string and then return the string here at the end. A bit like toString, we could make it like that if we wanted to. We've got that doggy there, so let's use that for now. So we probably want some validation here if search string is blank. Display an error. I'll let you guys worry about that. It's just a little if test and so on. So we'll assume everything's valid and we'll get the dog name. So it's search. And it's our array list object, which is dogs.search, followed by the search string. So it's going to return the first name of the dog it finds. If you're searching for Frankie and there's multiple Frankies, it's going to return the name of that first dog. So we want to now get that dog into our array list. So we can do this sort of code here. You can do that over here as well. That's quite okay. Okay, create a string builder object, get the headings. If the dog name that we found is greater than 0, the length of that, we could convert that dog into a string object. Let's do that. So there's another method over here I saw that to do that. Remove toString dog, search dog, get dog. There it is. That's going to get the current dog. In fact, we just call that method directly. Let's just call that method directly. It looks up the array and returns it. Let's just call that method directly. Even easier. Dogs.get. We just append that data straight to our and we won't worry about the size for now, how many dogs are returned. Okay, it's going to be set text to that output sp.toString. Okay, so just to recap on that, we're prompting the user to enter a name to search for. We're passing that name through to our get method, which takes the dog name and does a search for it. And if it's not found, it returns not found. Otherwise, it returns actual dog details. The first dog it finds, of course, this search method down here, which returns the first one in our next loop. And so in here, we'll see the not found, or we'll see the dog details when this returns. And inside that field there to be the either not found or the dog details. So we need if the length that's greater than 0, we can append it to the toString. In fact, it's going to be greater than 0 all the time because it's going to either return not found or whatever. So let's just append it directly, even easier. And change the text area. That should be good. Let's do a quick check on that. Semicolon. Control 2. So I'll type in Frankie. Add. That's going to throw an exception there because I didn't type in integer in. Add. Let's type Bella. 7. Add. Let's do a search, and we'll search on Bella. And there she is. And we'll do another Bella or Sam. And we'll do a search on Frankie. There he is. Do a search on Fran, and that won't be found. It's a basic search, but it's working. Again, we could neaten this up by maybe trying to combine all these methods into one toString method. And if you pass in an integer, so you'd have an int index, and that means you want that dog. Otherwise, if you pass in a string, that means you want to search for that dog. And instead of doing this, you could do an if the dog name matches. So you can actually combine all these methods into one with a little bit of creativity, but it's probably outside the scope of this course to do that. So keep them separate for now. That's fine. We got to display all. We had display all. Let's do a quick display all. Display all. There's all the doggies. 3 dogs. Four dogs. Search for Teeny. There's Teeny. Search for XYZ. Not found. So everything's basically working. And you'll see now that our GUI has no brains. Okay, it creates a GUI interface. And if there's any work that needs doing, like adding a dog and getting all the dogs and searching for a dog, it's all done by the brains class, which is our dogs class. Okay, so that's the one with the array list in it. That's got really all the processing and all the logic in it. The GUI takes care of the GUI. The dogs class takes care of all the logic, and the dog class, just the dog instance class, just takes care of this enough to store 1 dog of data. Okay, so we've got all that responsibilities there that I was talking about in prior weeks. So the GUI takes care of the GUI stuff and doesn't do any of the dog processing or array searching or anything like that. There's no mention of arrays here. We don't actually know where this data is stored. All we know there's a dogs object that we can use to call methods. Okay. So in an ideal world, if we'd done a bit more Java, we would do all this validation here. We would do that in the dogs class as well. Okay, and it would actually call the dog class to do the validation. Okay, so the dog class, this one here, is responsible for the data. Okay, but the dogs class would coordinate with the dog class. The array list class would coordinate with the data class to do the validation. So we wouldn't have any of this sort of stuff going on here in our GUI either, if in an ideal world, if we'd done a little bit more Java. Okay, so that's pretty similar to what the assignment 2 is, but the assignment 2 has merged the GUI and the array list class or the array class together. So they're all in one. Okay, so, which is fine for what we're doing at the moment, that's fine. It just means you've got one data class and one GUI class, and the GUI class is really the brains and the GUI, and the data classes just takes care of the data for one pizza or one dog or whatever. So that's probably about as far as we go. We've got 20 minutes to go. Still got 5 people, so 4 plus me. Are there any questions on anything we've done today? Anyone got any questions or issues or?
So I've got a question in the dogs file,
Yep.
dogs class. There you go. So since you took out the bit where you're adding the dogs in the constructor, is there even any point having that now?
Okay. So the only thing we're creating here is this chap. So whenever we say anywhere in the world, if we say dogs D equals new dogs, so this code here will run. And if we said doggies equals new dogs, again this code would run. So there'd be an array list for that chap and an array list for that chap. Okay, so they're separate because it's instance data. But what you normally so initializing like that's fine. But what you could also do is this. That results in exactly the same thing. When an object's created, like here, the constructors run. So then the constructor would actually do something. So if you're not initializing it the other way with it equals new here, put the equals new down here inside the constructor, and it's both really the same thing. They're both being initialized when the object's created. So, but if you left it the old way, equals new up here, then you could take out the constructor completely.
Yeah, that's fine. I couldn't really figure out in this situation what I would do in the constructor.
Yeah, that's right. There's not much. If we'd had a bit more time, if had another 2 hours or another hour, we could make it so that the data's saved to file and read from file. And so here, the data would automatically be read from file when the dog's created. And here in our exit application, when we do an exit, we'd make it so that the dog data was written to file here. So we'd say dogs, we'd call this object, the dogs object, got saved to file or something before we exited. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
That's right. Or you could even call the save to file every time you add a dog. So after you add a dog, make it so part of this process was saved to file as well. You could even do it inside the add method. So whenever you add a dog, save it to file. Just make sure we get the latest data always saved if it's super crucial. So I'll zip up that latest code. This will be version 0.7. And I'll put it in the GitHub. So the latest code will be in the GitHub as well. But I'll also attach it to this chat window. Everything's saved, yep. So it's in the chat window if people want it, but it'll also be on my GitHub, the latest code. Any questions, Andrew or Sanjan? Is everyone okay with what we've covered so far? And the key question is, do you think you can finish off your assignments? No questions. Thanks, Andrew. Question about the assignment? Okay, go ahead, Sanjan. Right. I'm still not sure about the number of pizzas, maximum pizzas. Okay. I think I read somewhere in the spec it was just 10 or something. 10. Search on array. 10 entries, there it is. I knew I read it somewhere. So do what we did earlier, where you set up we had the max size as a constant, max size equals 10, and then use that to declare the array. That's a much better way to go. So if we had to change our dogs class to work with an array instead of an array list, all we do is go through and say wherever that's used, just change it to array notation. Okay. And look up indexes instead of dot get, it's look up the index in the square brackets. Okay, so the Word document is going UML screenshots and review. Okay, so we did UML in a prior week there, just the UML diagram. And I showed you UML in one of my classes. I think it was in the dog class, actually. Let's have a look at my UML. Must have been a later week. I did UML diagram in one of the prior weeks. So for this dog class here, we can just do it quickly. So dog. You can do it fancy if you like in PowerPoint or something. Visio. So we've got two private data items. Dog name's a string. Dog age is a int. So you've got the data types, the class data that's associated with the data class. And then we'll do the methods. And we've got a dog constructor. And you usually show that with like this constructor. Something like that. Parameterized constructor as well, it takes in those. Okay, so it takes in a string and an int. Some people just show the string and the int because it's pretty clear that the string's got to be the dog name and the int's got to be the dog age. But if you want to be really clear, if you've got a lot of strings, why don't you show them there as well? Okay. These methods aren't void. There's no type, so you don't put .void after them. That would be an error. Okay. A table in Word for yours? Yeah, use a table in Word. Table in Word's fine. Yep. So a nice table in Word is perfect. You don't have to be fancy. Okay. So Word table, perfect. ASCII table at the top of your equals perfect. Okay, so I'm happy with either of those. Or if you wanted to get really fancy, do a PowerPoint. I'll accept any of those three. There's actually a very good reason to put it at the top of your dogs class, or dog class, sorry, your dog. Okay. And that's because if ever you need to tell anyone about your class, you can give them just the .class code and your UML diagram. Just copy and paste it into the email that you send them. There's how you use it, and away you go. So screenshots and review, that's all to do with your testing. So report. So no repeated code, that's an important point. So if you've got code that you're writing in one place and you've written virtually the same code or the same code somewhere else, make sure it's a method. Use the icons on your dialogue, so an error message has a error message icon, all that sort of stuff. Let's have a look at the report. So it's just of the pizza class. Not your GUI class, so don't worry about that. Screenshots and annotations of testing. So you're testing it with a blank name and you click in the add button, show the error message and that. And then you're testing it with, you're displaying all dogs without any dogs entered, show the error message for that. Enter a dog properly, click the add button, show that worked fine. Click the add a couple of dogs and click the display button and all should be listed, all that sort of stuff. So it's just all your testing that you're doing. And also how long it took and any problems you encountered. That's all important as well. How long it took. Okay, so if we find a lot of students having problems with methods or array lists or whatever, arrays, the idea is it will improve the course in the future and add more information on those in. So we do look at what you have problems with. Yep, so Wayne just used the word table for your Uml diagram, that's perfect. But any of those is fine. Even if you want to freehand it on a bit of paper, write on a bit of paper and take a photo of it and include that in your Word document, that's fine as well. So hand drawn is fine as well. Any of those are fine. Okay, so I think that's all we'll cover for this week, unless there's any last minute questions. Any last questions before we go? So assignment 2 is due tonight. And like I say, as long as you hand it in by Monday morning, 9 o'clock. So by Monday morning, I won't apply a late penalty. Next week is revision week. And like I said last week, there's no point, or in a lecture, no point working through past exams. Unless you want to, I'm more than happy to. But from what I've seen on the emails so far, Bruce is setting an exam alternative, which is a bit like an assignment. And it sounds like he's planning something a bit easier than assignment 1, which is interesting. But so keep an eye on the course forums and Bruce's emails. Bruce's emails. There's nothing I've seen so far, Sanjin. Oh, the specs on Moodle, is it? The specs already there on Moodle for the exam alternative. Okay, so let's have a quick look at that. And oh, sorry, wrong one. Course web page, not GitHub. Final project, there it is. So down the bottom of week 12, there's a final project. Let's have a quick look. And okay, it only has submission. So I'd say it's still coming in unless Andrew's got other information. I think Bruce is
Go to the assessment link at the top in that little table that drops down. It's got the
at the top of the course webpage.
Yeah, so there's the information assessment, e-reading list, support, staff help at the top there. See the blue bar at the top?
Oh, here, yep. Oh, final project, righto. It's the same screen. Yeah.
It's on there somewhere. I already looked at it.
Okay. It's saying it's hidden from me. Andrew's just sent me a link, so I'll just grab that link and paste that in. So I'm not actually seeing that link, but
It's
I would expect it to be there somewhere, probably.
on the course web page above where it's got the week 1, week 2, whatever. It's got assignment 1 specification, assignment 2 specification,
Yep.
and then final
Final project specification, righto. There we go. So that's just downloaded a PDF, righto. So it is there on the course web page. Up the top where the assignment specs are, final project specification, that's where you look. So let's have a quick look at that. Make sure you're happy with that. For this assignment, you're required to develop a Java program to demonstrate you can construct input and output, Java prototypes. Okay. Project specification. So the idea is you come up with your own project and do the specification for it, and then work from that specification. Okay. So the trick here is that your spec has to be clear and concise, and your code that you develop has to be exactly what your spec says you've got to develop. Okay. So the course web page, that's. This is really good practice for you. So later on when you're working in industry, you'll be doing analysis, design, development, testing, and all sorts of other things as well. And if you get to do the analysis specs and then the design specs, and you're writing code based on what you've done here, you'll learn so much. Okay, because it's only by going through the whole process several times that you can learn what questions you need to ask. So, and this is the key stage of the project, the analysis stage. If you don't ask the right questions, if you don't ask all the questions, it can cost an absolute fortune in time down here and rework. So that's the key stage. So this is a sort of mini example of that, where you're going to write the spec of whatever you want to do, whatever the project is, and then write the code for it. Think of your own scenario. A small business, so maybe you're, some suggestions there: gardening, lawn mowing, window cleaning, dog walking, dog grooming, house washing, house cleaning, babysitting, whatever you want to do. You could do home PC repairs, or I don't know. You could be selling products. It could be by calculating of services by an hourly rate or whatever. But the idea is that you specify it, and then you write the code to go along with it. So the code and the spec have to match. And it's not as easy as it sounds. And you'll find yourself writing code and you'll think, oh, I should have added that to the spec. And that's good as well, because you're thinking, oh, you're thinking of questions you should have asked up front. Okay, so it's a nice little exercise. Have fun with it. And try and be creative. Think of a unique scenario. Talk with your tutor if you want to. That's me. You can use any scenario that has been used in the unit before, including, if you want to use those, or you cannot. You cannot use. So it's going to read end entries. So going back to sort of a somewhat one sort of stuff. And it says week 4.java. That's sort of level, I guess. So it's going to be, for extra credit, you could include a GUI. So it could be a GUI. An advanced data structure. So like we've done with dogs. Parallel arrays, don't bother. Array of objects or array list of objects, much better. and meaningful identifiers, all that sort of stuff. Correct indentation layout, all the usual things. So you can use scanner input if you want, or if you want to get GUI input, that's great as well. So there's, Bruce said, extra credit for GUI. So to get a pass, maybe do something along the lines of week 4's Java program. That might get you a pass if it's done really well. Otherwise, if you want to get a distinction or a HD, then go for GUI with more functionality. Display all, average, cumulative totals, all that sort of stuff will get you extra marks and a high distinction maybe. And more suggestions here if you want to look at those. But the key points are the Java code's got to do exactly what the spec says. Okay. And I recommend clear and concise specs. So bullet points are good. Pseudocode's good. Okay, any questions on that? But have fun with it. Treat it like your own little project. And I think they've rolled out that you can have portfolios in your student area now. So make it nice and add it into your portfolio so that you can show employers what you've done. It's like your own little project that you've thought of. You've created the idea. You've come up with a spec. You've built the project. So you can do a lot here. You can make it part of your portfolio. Show employers in interviews. Start thinking about that. Okay. Be creative. Okay, any questions before we head off? Any more questions on that? I'm not sure how long you got to do it. I didn't look at that on the spec. Let's have a quick look. Due week 14, midnight. So it's 15th of June at midnight it's due. So that's in 3 weeks' time. And if it's not there already, I'm pretty sure Bruce will set you up a link on the webpage to submit it. There'll be, we saw that submission down below where you click that link. So that's the submission link. So that's where you go to submit it. Okay, any questions before we go? Okay, thanks for coming along and joining in. Thanks, Sanji and Andrew, Wayne. And anyone I've missed? Okay, good luck with things. Have fun with the project. It's going to be a great little project for you. And I'll see you next week. So next week's week 12. And we'll work on anything you like, anything you like. Bring along problems, issues, questions, and we'll work on it together. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good weekend and a good week, and see you next week. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.